Alrighty, we're gonna start with measuring the circumference. Here, they're gonna start off with the circumference of the abdomen. They're gonna find the level of the umbilicus or the greatest anterior extension of the abdomen. Using the flexible tape measure, they're gonna measure on the skin. Tape measure should be flat on the skin and perpendicular to the floor. The measurement should be taken once the client exhales on a normal breath. This should be taken multiple times, at least twice. If they're not within zero point 0.5 centimeters within each other, do another trial. Next, they're going to do the waist circumference, feet tight, narrow. They're going to find the narrowest part of the torso, above the umbilicus, and below the xiphoid process. Using flexible tape, this should be done on the skin so it can be a more accurate reading. Here I would have probably done it on the skin, so it's more accurate. I know it's probably not ideal for the situation, but I would have done it on the skin. So now they're going to start with the Skinfold test. All measurements should be taken on the same side of the body. So here they're going to do it on the right side of the body, so preferably on the right side. And make sure they're standing up. To get the chest, it's going to be a diagonal fold, so it's going to be half the distance between the anterior axillary line and the nipple. So that's where the marking is. So the marking right in the middle. So those two lines are the position where that position is where the caliper will go. Here, the person taking the measurement is gripping the skin, and they're loosening the skin from the muscle by pinching it, and they're going to pull away from it so that way you get all the subcutaneous fat. Once you have that, you're going to put the caliper on the area designated where it's going to be measured. It should be there for about 1 to 2 seconds for an accurate reading, and then you will take down the measurements. Usually this will be done two to three times depending on how close the measurements are. But they won't be consecutively back to back. It'll be once you've done different places, and then you want to go back to it. That way the skin settles. Alrighty, let's see. Next, they're taking the skin fold in the abdomen, so it's going to be a vertical fold. So here they're marking 2 centimeters to the right and level with the umbilicus. So these markings is where the caliper will be going. So same thing, they're going to be grasping the skin with their left hand and making sure they get all the subcutaneous fat off the muscle. Then they're going to put the caliper on there, get their reading. And this should be done 2 to 3 times depending on how close the readings are. Next, the next measurement will be from the thigh. So for the males, it's going to be chest, abdomen, and thigh. Here on the thigh, it'll be also a vertical fold. So you want to make sure their thigh is parallel to the floor whenever you're getting the measurements. On the anterior middle of the thigh, you're going to want to measure halfway in between the proximal border of the patella and the hip. Once you get that, and once you have your reading, as she's doing there, you pinch the skin and pull away from the muscle and try your best to get all of the subcutaneous fat around the thigh area. There's a lot of muscle there, so it's going to be pretty difficult to pull it away. But once you do that, you're going to get the reading on the caliper, leave it on there for 1 or 2 seconds on the designated mark. And you're going to want to do this again 2 to 3 times, not consecutively, just after you do it, after the other measurements. That way the skin settles back and you have more accurate readings. So now they're going to start with the female. For the female Skinfold test, it's on the triceps, suprailiac, and the thigh. So here they're doing the triceps area for the female. For the female, it'll also be, for the tricep Skinfold test, it'll also be a vertical fold. It's posterior midline of the upper arm. So you're going to want to get the measuring tape and measure halfway between the acromion and the olecranon process. So that's the shoulder and the elbow. And then the arm will freely hang to the side of the body. So once you get those measurements, you're going to want to mark it. And that mark is where the caliper will be. So then she lays her arm down because you want her to be relaxed on the side of her arm. You're going to want to pinch the subcutaneous fat, have her flex maybe. That's probably something I would have had her do was flex. That way I can, or with all of these measurements, I would have had them flex. That way their muscle can pull away from the subcutaneous fat, and then I can have a better gauge or better reading of the subcutaneous fat with the caliper. And he took the measurement already, but I would have held it there for maybe a little bit longer than he did, so I could have seen exactly where it was at. Next, they're gonna do the suprailiac region. So this would be a diagonal fold, in line with the natural angle of the iliac crest. So that's where he was feeling at. He was palpating that area. Excuse me. Taken in the anterior axillary line immediately superior to the iliac crest. So that's where he's at. And then right here, he's pinching it on a diagonal fold, and he took the measurement. And right here, I probably would have had her flex her abs, so that way the muscles could have been pulled away from the subcutaneous layer. And that's pretty much it. They didn't do the thigh, but it was already done on the male, so the same procedure would have followed. And that is how you do the circumference readings as well as the skin fold test for male and women. Alrighty, thank you.